So this is the start to a series of videos called Forgotten Classics, in which I analyze great movies that for one reason or the other aren't as well known as they deserve. In today's episode, Murder by Death. One of my favorite comedies of all time, this movie stars so many great names, it could just as well be an Avengers movie. Among them, Peter Sellers, Alec Guinness, David Niven, Truman Capote, James Cromwell, and Maggie Smith. It also benefits from having some of the most absurd comedy in cinema history, being on the same tier with Monty Python and the Holy Grail. I could probably give the whole movie start to finish as an example of how much of an absurdist treasure it is, but given that we don't have an hour and a half, I'll just put my favorite sequence from the movie here.
She died in here.
Oh dear.
Died of what?
She murdered herself in her sleep, sir.
You mean suicide?
Oh, no. It was murder, all right. Mrs. Twain hated herself.
The story mainly revolves around 5 famous detectives and their sidekicks, each one of them satirizing a famous detective from literature, namely Sidney Wang satirizing Charlie Chan, Milo Perrier satirizing Hercule Poirot, Sam Diamond satirizing every Humphrey Bogart role, but mostly the one in The Maltese Falcon, Jessica Marble satirizing that other Agatha Christie character nobody remembers the name of, and Dick and Dora Charleston satirizing God knows what. They're just posh British upper class. The 5 detectives are invited to dinner and a murder by a mysterious millionaire called Lionel Twain. Upon arriving, Twain reveals that someone is going to get murdered at midnight and that he who finds out who done it will get
$1 million.
as well as publishing rights. Did I mention that this movie goes more meta than most Mel Brooks movies? That night, precisely at midnight, Twain is found dead as he described, stabbed 12 times in the back with a kitchen knife. Eventually, it is revealed that each of the detectives had a reason for murdering Twain, some rational, some downright insane, with Charleston being indebted to Twain, Marbles wanting vengeance for being dumped on the altar, Diamond wanting to get rid of Twain after Twain acquired photos with him in a gay bar, Perrier wanting to get even after Twain killed the love of his life, his poodle in one of his annual poodle hunts. You have no idea how many times I had to read that line in order not to laugh out loud at the sheer insanity of it, and Wang being bitter after Twain raised him for 18 years before throwing him out upon realizing that he was actually Chinese all along.
He was not very observant.
Unable to find the culprit, they each go to their rooms to sleep, but while there, an attempt is made on each of their lives. After they escape, they find
That the butler did it.
Usually, at this point in the story, the detective brings out the final piece of the puzzle to solve everything. This movie does that too. 5 times to be precise, with each of the 5 revealing some other information leading to the butler being some other person. With every reveal, the butler pretending it's the right one and going along with it, even if the presumed actual identity is of the wrong gender.
I prefer to be called Rita.
Finally, the butler himself subverts our expectations almost as hilariously as Rian Johnson did it by revealing via Mission Impossible mask that is actually Lionel Twain, before going on a metatextual rant about how stupid these twist endings are in detective stories. And as everyone leaves, he pulls yet another Mission Impossible mask to reveal that is actually the maid.
And you suddenly change in midstream, and it was the chambermaid who did it.
So given all the great names and brilliant absurdist comedy that this movie has, how come it's not better known? Well, the answer is pretty simple. A lot of people consider this movie offensive, racially insensitive, guilty of whitewashing, all that good stuff that makes modern day media lose its shit. As to whether it's guilty of that, well, that's a little more complicated. On the surface, the movie does do all these things, until one remembers it's a satire. The movie does make fun of every national/racial stereotype it can get its hands on by exaggerating them. We have Perrier, who is an overly exaggerated representation of every French,
I'm not a Frenchie, I'm a Belgie.
I'm sorry, I mean Belgian stereotype there is, mainly mocking Poirot, the same being the case for Dick and Dora Charleston's stereotypical English upper-class behavior, and Sam Diamond that resembles Spider Noir more than anything else.
Sometimes I let matches burn down to my fingertips just to feel something, anything.
But these are not the things that people have a problem with. What they have a problem with is Peter Sellers' Sidney Wang, which is a combination of every single Asian stereotype there is. However, there are two things one must remember. The first one is the fact that the stereotypes are overly played for humor and intentionally made out to be extra stupid.
Wow, there! Voice come from cow and what?
Moose! Moose, you imbecile!
Like his character speaking stilted English despite being adopted and growing up in an American white family. The stilted English is further addressed and mocked with this.
What meaning of this, Mr. Twain?
I will tell you, Mr. Wang, if you can tell me why a man who possesses one of the most brilliant minds of this century can't say his prepositions or articles. The, Mr. Wang, what is the meaning of this?
To emphasize that this is all just a joke, meant to show just how stupid the whole Asians don't speak proper English thing is. The second thing one must remember is the character he is based on, Charlie Chan, which is an actually offensive character, very often whitewashed, and with some real racial sensitivity problems. So by satirizing and overplaying this, the only thing that this movie is offensive towards is said stereotypes. Because, as Mel Brooks taught us, the best way to deal with stereotypes isn't to ignore them, but to overplay them in order to show just how offensive they are. That is, at least in comedies. As while a character like this can work very well in an absurd satire, it wouldn't really work in a more serious movie, like say, I don't know, Breakfast at Tiffany's. To wrap this all out, this movie is an absolute comedic gem, sadly ignored due to people misunderstanding its comedy and, in typical modern fashion, feeling offended. So give it a watch and you won't be disappointed. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more, please like and subscribe. I'm constantly trying to improve the quality of this channel, so if you have any suggestions, please leave them down in the comments. All feedback, be it positive or negative, will be more than welcome. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.